Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Covenant Security Solutions webinar series, the Learn at Lunch webinar series. Today, we're very privileged to have the founder and CDO of SCIT Labs, Dr. Arun Sood. Arun, I really appreciate you being here today, and I look forward to a very informative presentation. I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Marjorie. I am Arun Sood. I'm the founder of SCIT Labs, and I greatly appreciate your taking the time to participate in this webinar. You can reach me via the SCIT Labs website or by the email in the signature line, asood@scitlabs.com. In this webinar, we present SCIT, the digital vaccine. SCIT is a digital vaccine in the spirit of the flu vaccine. The flu vaccine protects against only 3 of the many strains active at any time. So why get the flu vaccine shot? Because there are lots of strains which we are not protecting against. Doctors say that if you take the flu vaccine, you may get the flu because you're not protected against all strains, but the intensity will be lower and the recovery will be faster. That's the key. Intensity will be lower and recovery will be faster. In a similar vein, SCIT technology is designed to minimize losses and ensure fast recovery. SCIT provides proactive cyber attack deterrence. When many people talk about proactive in the cyber context, they typically talk about information sharing approaches. That is, you may have 1,000 servers, one server is compromised, you find out why, share the information with the other 999 servers, and that is considered proactive cybersecurity. We are taking a different view. We are proactive with respect to the attacker. That is, we do not need information, we do not need knowledge of the attacker for SCIT to be effective. So we are proactive with respect to the attacker. The SCIT approach leads to a resilient servers that are constantly restored to a pristine, uncontaminated state. And this also means that the recovery time is reduced and the recovery costs are reduced. The whole philosophy by SCIT is to try to reduce the total cost of operations of your cybersecurity approach. I'm now going to the next slide. Oops. So in this slide, I try to put SCIT in the overall context of cybersecurity. So to put SCIT in the context of the bigger cyber problem, we start by looking at the cyber risk equation. This is generally accepted that cyber risk is a product of 3 terms: threats, vulnerabilities, and consequences. Cyber risk has become important because we are under constant attack. The hope was that if we reduce any one of these terms to zero, then cyber risk will be eliminated. Unfortunately, this is not happening. The current systems have focused on threat mitigation by information sharing and on eliminating vulnerabilities, thus trying to drive threats to zero and vulnerabilities to zero. Unfortunately, the reality is they were constantly under attack. Criminals use new and persistent threats to exploit vulnerabilities. Most of us do not have James Bond 007 license and hence are not able to eliminate the threat. Further, the number of vulnerabilities is constantly increasing. Currently, there are more than 65,000 vulnerabilities in the CVE database. So eliminating all vulnerabilities is impossibly hard. It's a very hard problem. For example, the recent issues with SSL and shell shock exemplify the problem. Systems which have been used constantly for several years have suddenly developed vulnerabilities which people are exploiting. SCIT focuses on consequence management. Our system is independent of the threats and focuses on making it difficult for the attacker to exploit the vulnerabilities. We provide resilience through seamless recovery. The way we look at things is, let's keep everything clean, let's keep everything up to date. And if we need to expend some computer cycles on this, so be it. We achieve our goal by using computer cycles to reduce the exposure of a system to cyber risk. In the overall picture, we believe in defense in depth, and we view SCIT as an additional layer in the defense in depth strategy. Experience shows that to reduce cyber risk, we should reduce not only the vulnerabilities and mitigation of threats, but we should reduce all the three terms: threats, vulnerabilities, and consequences. And our system focuses on managing the consequences. So to highlight the issues that we have to deal with, let's consider 3 recent breaches. I just walked through each of them a little bit so as to give you a flavor of what happened and what are the problems which one has to encounter. So the first one was South Carolina Department of Revenue. So on October 12th, 2012, a law enforcement agency informed South Carolina Department of Revenue of a data breach. Incident analysis showed that the intruders were in the system from August 13th to October 19th of 2012. The Department of Revenue lost 75 gigabytes of data that were compressed and encrypted into 15 archives. 44 systems were compromised and data for 3.8 million taxpayers and over 699,000 businesses was stolen. And the cost of remediation is estimated to be $19 million. That's the issue. This is a very costly operation. $19 million for remediation costs. The next case is of our Target. The data breach was reported in December of 2013. Credit cards presented at Target between November 27th and December 17th were compromised. The breach was brought to the attention of Target on December 12th by Department of Justice. In the August 2014 10Q, Target reported that since the data breach, we have incurred $236 million of cumulative expenses, partially offset by expected insurance recoveries of $19 million. So Target's FireEye system detected malware.binary and issued an alert on November 30th. Experts familiar with FireEye note that hundreds of generic malware.binary alerts are likely every day and typically ignored by security teams. Why are they ignored? Analyzing each alert is expensive and false positives overwhelm the incident management teams. And the last one is Home Depot. The Home Depot investigation has determined that the criminals used unique custom-built malware that wasn't present in other attacks. Typically, the criminals build their attacks using existing malware, but minor tweaks make the malware look different to the reactive detection systems and thus escapes detection. In this case, the recovery cost was $62 million have already been reported. And if you compare this to Target, there is a possibility the losses will significantly increase with time. So in this slide, I summarize our observations of the cyber threat. I'm going to walk through and emphasize three key observations. The first one is experience shows that intrusions are inevitable. Most breaches are discovered by third parties. This was true of the three examples we just took. This implies that detection and prevention approaches work only some of the time. They do not work all the time. So to build resilient systems, we need to do something different. Thus, we developed the SCIT approach, which does not depend on detection. If you look at the graph at the bottom, the threats have been divided into two categories, really, transient and persistent. They're also divided up further into ankle biters, criminal malware, and advanced persistent threat. The focus of SCIT is on persistent threats. Such threats involve malware being installed on the target. The malware persists for long periods. Mandiant suggests that the average time before a compromise is detected is more than 200 days. 200 days. So in the persistent threats, intruders stay in the system for long times, days, weeks, months. It is the focus of SCIT technology to remove malware quickly, we have built systems in which the malware is deleted in minutes without the need to detect the malware. By removing the malware quickly, limits the time the attacker has to do damage. So, intrusions are inevitable means we should not rely on detection. To reduce the time bad guys can do damage, we reduce the amount of time the malware is in the system. The last point here is that the current servers, and SCIT is server technology, current servers are sitting ducks. Typically, the servers are launched and are never shut down, except to install a patch, or there's a loss of power, or some other bad event takes place. Why? Well, this is a low-cost solution. If you bring up a server and leave it unattended, the cost is low. But this low-cost solution also gives the attacker additional opportunity. SCIT uses a different approach. We launch the server, and then after a customer-defined time, which we call the exposure time, we shut it down. Thus, the criminals only have limited time in the system. We have built the software in such a fashion that the user's work is not interrupted. We do this by using redundancy. The user does not see any interruption in the work or the availability of the server. We have built systems in which this action takes place in the order of a few minutes. Another way to think through this issue is to look at the kill chain. The Lockheed CERT identified a sequential chain of events that are required to successfully complete its targeted mission. The events are divided into three broad categories: pre-compromise, compromise, and post-compromise. The current reactive prevention and detection systems focus on pre-compromise, which in turn is divided into three stages. Reconnaissance, where the attacker is doing research on your systems and learning about your systems. And since the systems are static, this makes it an easier job. Once they have studied your systems, they then go to the weaponization stage. The attacker creates malware to fit the particular situation. Then the malware is delivered, often through a phishing attack. In the compromise stage, the attacker malware exploits the vulnerability and the malware operations are launched. In the post-compromise stage, attacker controls the system and now makes lateral moves to exploit additional systems. As the malware gets embedded in the system, the risk increases, potential for damage increases, and the cost to remediate increases. Hence, the goal of SCIT technology is to make the malware ineffective as soon as possible. This picture basically shows how SCIT works. You want all your servers to have a high integrity. That is the black line. But really, the server integrity is reducing with time. That's the green line. Why does it reduce? Well, you may have memory leaks. You may have batches may be delayed for any number of reasons. The server integrity reduces. What SCIT does is the red line. We restore the system to a pristine state at a time interval called ET. ET stands for exposure time. So even if the system is compromised, it is restored to a pristine state very quickly. And we do this by looking at the clock, not looking at any detection mechanism. This picture gives you another view to how the system works. The green servers are the pristine servers. The red ones are compromised servers. As soon as a server is brought online, we assume that it is compromised. And after a certain amount of time, maybe 60 seconds, we swap a green server for a red server. And hence, this online servers are always green. Look at the yellow server on the left. After the server is decommissioned, it is sent for processing to a forensic system. We have interfaced SCIT to ENCASE and are interfacing it to other systems which can do analysis of the VM. We know that the attacker targets the servers as soon as they go live. But in 60 seconds, they lose connection, and everything they did is gone. The question is, how much damage can they do in 60 seconds? This slide gives you a quick summary of some of the advantages of using this approach. We effectively reduce the data exfiltration losses. We reduce the time and cost of SOC operations, Security Operations Center response. We provide an early warning, IT early warning. We respond to high threat intensity. SCIT, as compared to other software whitelisting systems, is probably best classified as software whitelisting on steroids. Our recovery time is very short. We have properties of operational resilience and improved configuration management. This slide emphasizes one of the use cases for SCIT. So you have a SCIT secure web gateway. Often users are using the cloud to store their data, but the data has to be protected. The cloud owners do not encrypt data using your key, so people often use a web gateway to encrypt the incoming data. That encryption protects your data at rest. But the question is, what if somebody gets into the gateway? That's what the SCIT gateway, secure web gateway, prevents. We constantly restore the gateway to a pristine state. By restoring to a pristine state, we make sure that if somebody comes in and sits in the gateway, they're thrown out very quickly. The SCIT gateway can be designed to have multi-levels of security. The SCIT servers can have different levels of security depending on the user requirements. This slide is from one of our implementations where we apply SCIT to an e-commerce environment. A video showing how our system works is online at that particular address, the web address. The left-hand side is the system admin window, which shows you the state of each VM at any time. Right-hand side is an example of one of the pages from the e-commerce JPEG store example. To build this example, no application code was changed, and more details of this are available online. I've presented to you SCIT, the digital vaccine. We already have 6 patents issued, and additional videos about SCIT technology are available at this particular location. There are 4 more videos, and they discuss different issues. I am now ready to answer any questions that you may have. Marjorie?
Well, thank you so much, Arun. This product looks wonderful. I really like the idea of how you have it as the digital vaccine, because a lot of customers and a lot of our partners might even be interested in actually utilizing your whitelisting on steroids. I think that's a part of being proactive and protecting your system. Now, in order to actually get a demo of this product, who should people contact, and how can they schedule a demonstration of your product?
They can send an email to asood@skitlabs.com, or if they go to the website, they can make a request from the website, and we can set up a demo for them very quickly.
I think that a lot of organizations like Home Depot and Target wish that they had something like this before they got exposed. Do you have a sliding scale of how the product can be implemented even on some of our mom and pop vendors' systems? How do you recommend, or do you recommend that any and everyone try to utilize the product?
Yes, we have a sliding scale, as you called it. We don't suggest that everybody tries to build the most expensive solution. There are cheaper solutions available. For example, instead of having an exposure time of 1 or 2 minutes, if you have an exposure time of 1 hour, you reduce the cost significantly. So there are different ways by which we can accommodate folks who don't want to have the most sophisticated solution.
Again, Dr. Sood, I really appreciate your time and effort, and I really hope to see more in regards to SCIT Labs products. I really think that it would be a huge benefit for most vendors to at least look into how SCIT might enhance their product, their systems, and the protection of their systems, because the key is being proactive, and a lot of people don't understand how to become proactive. And I really appreciate you informing us of how we can better protect our systems. I think that's very important for anyone, even for your home use, that you be proactive in protecting your systems. And again, Dr. Sood, I thank you, and I thank everyone for participating and joining us for our Learn at Lunch webinar series. I look forward to hearing any other questions, and if we receive any questions, if you have any questions, please feel free to forward to us any questions you have, and we'll make sure that your questions would be addressed. Again, thanks everyone for attending. Thanks again, Dr. Sood. Have a good day, everyone.